Hello, everyone. Today I will be talking to Jacques. And in this very office, we have had many serious discussions on Hinduism and Buddhism. But I remember starting many of those discussions with a joke and ending them with a joke. And I miss those discussions. So, Jacques, someday you must come back and study again, and find we'll find something interesting to talk about. Now, I understand, Jax, that you are training to become a comedian or a clown in Paris. So before I start asking you a few questions, should I take you seriously, whatever you're going to tell me now?
Yes, extremely seriously.
Right.
Yes.
So if you were given a choice between being seriously funny and funnily serious, which one would you take?
Um, that's a very good question. Probably seriously funny. Yeah.
Seriously funny.
Yeah, if not, you'd just be a politician. Maybe a good politician if you're funnily serious. Yeah, seriously funny.
Now, regarding the word divinity, many people, when they hear the phrase faculty of divinity, it's possible that they are going to feel very puzzled and confused and perplexed because we don't use the word divinity in everyday English. So, what do you think that word means, divinity?
Um, Divinity, to me, well, not to me. I know that divinity comes from the divine, um, but it's an interesting word because divine, I feel, is also used to say, wow, that was really divine after having a good experience. So I think that divinity it sounds quite old fashioned. And so it's potentially something that can be maybe a bit intimidating if you don't know that much about it. Sounds sort of old and archaic, but really I think it's just the study of the divine and trying to look through the world through a religious lens.
So, do you think God has a sense of humor?
Yes,
What is
I do.
that? What is that sense?
Well, I think God has a sense of humor because we have a sense of humor, and um, I think there's a lot of comedy embedded into everyone's life, and just because I feel like even if I feel everyone is born with certain sort of attributes that are funny, that are good, and others that are bad. Um, and the bad often undercuts the good in quite a ironic way. Um, I feel like I feel I think comedy is also extremely useful to life. So I think that's why God made it. I think it's a very it's a way of smoothing out rigidities in people and helping life flow more smoothly, I think.
Right, right. Yeah. Do you think God will have the last laugh?
I think I don't know. I feel like having the last laugh, does that mean that God is in conflict with us and we're in a sort of battle with God? Um, if so, then I suppose so, yes. But I don't think that's how God would be thinking about it necessarily.
No, I
Not
mean,
saying God. I'm
yeah,
not
I
saying
agree.
God.
I suppose we would have to look at different conceptions of divinity and look at how God is variously conceptualized from different perspectives. So maybe from some, God has a sense of humor, multiple senses of humor. Maybe from some perspectives, God is very serious. God is funnily serious or seriously funny.
Yeah, I think God being funnily serious or seriously funny. I I think that God. I mean, this might be pushing ahead into what maybe you were going to ask later, but I think the whole idea of God and the world being engaged in a form of play with each other is a really sort of compelling one that I find very interesting. And I think that comedy as a form of play is very much fits into, I think, the things that matter most in life. Um, that being, I mean, when people say about enjoying life and making the most out of life, often they're referring to states that are good within and of themselves. They're not trying to achieve a future aim. For example, love or enjoying the moment or listening to music are all things that I think are good within and of themselves, because and not because they're trying to bring about some future state, but they're about the sort of enjoyment of the present, I suppose. And I think comedy is very much part of that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, no, it makes a lot of sense to me. You can, I mean, I am already beginning to think about what you're saying. Um, now, do you think that the study of religion can bring about a concrete change in the world?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it is doing so all the time without people realizing. Like, for example, our culture wars of today. Um, there's a historian, Tom Holland, who argues that actually they're just theological debates. And when you see it from his perspective, I think it makes total sense. If you look, take America for as a case study, you have the sort of very bitter feud between conservatives and liberals, and conservatives are essentially people who hold Christian values. I mean, take Roe versus Wade being overturned earlier this year or last year. Um, I mean, that's purely these conservative judges that came in. That was purely a theological matter, right? I mean, they believe that it's wrong to terminate a fetus because life for them starts at conception, and but also on the other side you have liberals who are arguing for stuff like you know empathy to and compassion towards marginalized communities, such as, for example, the trans community. They're aspiring towards the sort of universal realization of the self, in inequality with other people. And I think this is also just can be argued to be a massive inheritance of Christian thought, because I mean the idea that we should you know treat marginalized communities with compassion and kindness is not one that's self-evident at all throughout history. I mean, just that's I feel like that's at least in part the inheritance of theological understandings of the world. So I think that theology and the study of it is absolutely necessary to understanding real how the real change works in the world.
That brings me to the third and a final question, which is kind of related to the second one. The time you spent in the faculty, say 3 years, how has it changed or recalibrated your understanding of what it means to be human?
I think in many ways, I I think when you look at the world through a religious lens, you are inherently looking at it through possibly the most human lens that you can, I would say, in the sense of the the kind of questions that are asked are always revolving around big emotions in the human experience, I think, or how we fundamentally look at the world through our. I mean, if you take the study of the Bible, I mean, the Bible, there's a reason why so many writers who aren't necessarily Christian read it, is because of the absolute, I guess, humanity at the core of it and the questions it addresses. But also, I think, I don't know, I was studying theology whilst also being very into music, and I felt that the exploration of music for me, and the study of theology weirdly went really well hand in hand, because a lot of the a lot of the states that you go into, and I felt you're playing music, sort of if you're improvising and you're really in the flow, or you're jamming with people and you feel connected to other people through the jam, and all coming into rhythm together and syncing up and listening to each other and being in harmony, I felt was really also reflected in the kind of language we use for ritual and the purpose of ritual. And I felt that a lot of the mystical insights that were offered to me by theology, I kind of was helped to understand them through music, which may sound quite presumptuous, but I don't know. It was very much it allowed me to, I think, understand and conceptualize a sort of deeper part of myself, which I feel is yeah, it's a great gift.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear from you. So what you're saying is that in your conceptual space, in your experiential space, humor, music, and theology somehow come together.
Yes, I like to make. Yes, I would like to think so. Um, for me, I actually, one of the things that brings it all together the most, and one of the aspects of theology that I find the most interesting and that I spend the most time on, is really about the imagination. And I feel like one thing that, because I love creative things, I love different forms of art, and through studying people like, for example, Ibn Arabi, who's like a mystic Sufi scholar, and reading people like William Blake, it gave me an understanding of how I think the imagination is so fundamentally crucial for any form of spiritual experience um, in the world, and also how deeply intertwined religion and art are. And actually, I will, I think, always remember one supervision that I had with you. We were talking about Hinduism and ancient Vedic rituals, and sort of the sun was setting in the sky, and we were sitting outside, and it was like bright red. And I remember that you spoke about how ritual is, and these Vedic rituals can be seen as a form of poetic expression by the people performing them, which then makes them feel synchronized to the world around us. And I think that's, as as someone, as when you're making art, I think it's really the same principle. I think all art is so that we can understand each other in a deeper way that makes us feel synchronized with ourselves. Like music, for example, has so much overlap with. I mean, if you have 60,000 people in a concert, all sort of listening to the same thing and feeling the same way, it's very much like ritual, where people are drumming drums and singing together and feeling connected. So I feel like the imagination and art and religion are all sort of deeply, deeply intertwined.
Wow, wonderful. Uh, Thank you, Jacques, for talking to me today. When you're in Cambridge again, do let me know. We will carry on these conversations about humor, about music, about ritual, about imagination, and God.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. It's lovely to speak with you.